walk you guys through the sort of, because we actually did not have as much kind of questions or sort of disagreement kind of as we expected. I think, a lot of the Army folks were very happy. I think that was most of what we kind of saw as response to the poll. We got a bunch of, a lot of people retweeted it. And so, but we only had one. I think we got one kind of comment about Syracuse and Maryland, which we'll explain here. But I expect a lot more shock and kind of, because there is some wild sort of, and we are not, as you can see, we are a lot different to the media poll here. We are a lot different. We're a lot different to a lot of polls here, which I think is a factor of just we have a smaller voting group. The USA Lacrosse Magazine poll is just that's wild.
Living the best life.
That's kind of crazy, but nonetheless. So yeah, Army Notre Dame. You can see that's obvious. They're number 1 and number 2 is just straight up. Duke is third in. On 5 of the ballots, and on 3 of 5 ballots, and the lowest they go is 5. So their average is going to be having Virginia, which has a low of 7. Virginia's 4th. They are 3rd on 2 ballots, 4th on another, 7th still to go. So their average is going to stay pretty high. Now it's where we get that was pretty easy to go through Army, Notre Dame, Duke, Virginia. That was pretty kind of consensus. After this, we go just all right. We're off the wall here. Ryan and Adam have Penn State 4th. Me and Yusuf have Penn State 9th. I like Penn State. I think Penn State's a good team. Mark DM'd me while I was doing the poll. Mark Hart, our pal. Hopefully we can have him on the pod in a couple weeks to do bracketology. He put out his first preliminary, bracketology, post. And pretty much while I was doing the poll, and he's like, "Yeah, I didn't expect to have Penn State as the number 1 seed at this point."
Yeah, I was like, let's reference have them at second, behind Yale. But I mean, yeah. Given the schedule, I would not have said that's the number 1 RPI in the land.
They got this. Yeah. But they got the second RPI.
2 on Lex reference and 1 on Mark's.
Well, yeah, but Mark's has the number 1 seed, and yeah, because they got the second RPI, and they beat Yale, and they beat Cornell.
Forgive me, yeah, you're right, my bad. He's already doing the seeding.
Yeah, he did the seeding. Yeah, so they beat. They got 2. They beat Cornell. They beat Villanova's 17th in the RPI top 20, and then they beat Yale. So at least in terms of, again, and the RPI is still not. It won't really be kind of coagulated until, I would say, give it another week, 2 weeks. But it's forming, and Penn State, again, I said it. I think people really buried Penn State too early.
Yeah, that's for sure.
After the Colgate, again, me ranking them 9th is not I think they're a good team. It was just kind of a case of, none of it used to I had them. Where do we have them last week in the week 4 poll?
Yeah, so just about to look at that. Yeah.
9th.
Penn State was 9th. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just a case of, the Cornell to me, and they blew out Cornell. Very impressive. I just sort of saw it as I really was kind of struggling with Cornell in terms of it said more about kind of Cornell than I kind of view Cornell as, really not a top 10 team. At this point in time, when I look at that defense, and then I really had to give Cuse beating Hopkins. That's just a big deal. I think Cuse and Penn State are probably right there. If they played, I don't know who I'd pick in that game. I think Penn State could definitely win. And so I just couldn't really, move. Could I move Penn State above Maryland? Maybe, but I still think Maryland's kind of it's these last couple games again. We'll kind of get into the vibes weird, but man, they've beaten a lot of really good teams. Still,
well, that's kind of why I was so surprised about the RPI of Penn State because references strength of schedules, they have them at 11th, and Maryland is at 5th, and I was I just didn't expect Penn State to be that high because I would think there have been teams I felt Syracuse has only lost to Army and Maryland, both by 1, and you can say whatever about controversial endings or whatever, and I was kind of surprised really how, but still, I'm with you that I don't say this totally self-serving, Jake, just because I picked Penn State to win the title in our preseason poll. But yeah, people were. It's not totally self-serving. It's like, it's not 0%, but it's not totally self-serving. But yeah, the people just buried them after the Colgate, and now Colgate like is a top 20 team. And,
That's yeah. So yeah, Penn State's like, when you look at it, it's like they've done nothing like at the moment. When you think about like nothing really looks as bad. Like when they've lost no games to non-top 20 teams, and they've got some really good wins on the schedule. But yeah, I just couldn't really move them up that high. For me personally, and like other people really moved Denver down. I was hard to really move Denver down that much. So yeah, I left them at 9, but they were ranked inside the top 5 by 3. Chris as well had them 5th. So they're ranked inside the top 5 by 3 of our pollsters, and so they are ranked 5th. Then we get to Hopkins. Who could imagine they ever say this? The Maryland fan is the high man on Hopkins.
The man of integrity,
I can't, guys, they lost by 1 goal. I came away from that game, and I'm like they won. You look at the efficiency numbers in the game, they were the more efficient offense. Both teams didn't clear the ball particularly well. Hopkins cleared it worse, that's for sure. Syracuse dominated face-offs. And look, Syracuse deserved to win the game. I'm not trying to quickly, huge impressive win of Syracuse. But I just if this is the game I'm looking at, I just don't see it as. And when I look at what else Hopkins has done, beating Virginia, beating Georgetown, beating Penn, that's 3 top 15 teams. I just could, and when I look at, I like to sometimes also take into account, how does the team, look, eye test, but I back it up by the stats, it's like the efficiency stats. Hopkins is a top 10 offense in adjusted offensive efficiency. They're a top 10 defense in adjusted defensive efficiency. They are a top 20 face-off group, and they're top 10 in save percentage. So they're top 20 in everything and top 10 in 3 out of the 4 categories. That looks like a really damn good team to me.
Yeah.
So I just couldn't find myself I can't put them, but from what I've seen, they've looked like a better team to me on the field than Maryland so far. Penn State so far. Cuse so far, Cuse beating them that's valid, but Hopkins' resume outweighs it so far what they've done on the field. So the only teams that resume really compares is Maryland, but Hopkins has been looks better to me, and statistically they are outpacing Maryland. The numbers back it up that Hopkins has been a better team so far. So I just can't find myself going I got to drop Hopkins
Yeah. Georgetown, North Carolina,
North Carolina too. Yeah, North Carolina too. I mean, that I even forgot about the North Carolina win.
I think you meant that. Yeah, I think what you meant when you said Penn, but yeah, that's.
Penn. No, Penn. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, Georgetown beat Penn. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, North Carolina. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's 4 wins. In the top, or at least 3 wins in the top.
3 wins, yeah.
And then that I thought the impressive. I was like, hey, if this is the worst Hopkins plays, and this is the 3rd away game against an ACC team, and neutral site or whatever. And that was a calamity of errors in terms of clearing the ball at certain points, but they were still in it at the end. Honestly, if they didn't have that turnover, at midfield, they may have had a shot with 10, 13 seconds left to get a playoff. But like I said, I was wasn't disappointed how they played, and I'm with you. I had to just put them back behind Syracuse just because I also think Syracuse's resume has not been too bad. The loss to Army and the loss to Maryland, were both incredible games, and they could have gone either way. So I think Penn State at 9 for us when we ranked them there. I was I think that matches the media poll. Yeah, Penn State's 9 in the media poll. Penn State's 9 is the USI coaches poll. So you and I are aligned with the coaches and the media. So at least we're not too far out. But I think the Penn State's resume is not too bad. I was
Villanova,
yeah,
I mean, beat Yale.
At the Yale win, that's my bad.
Cornell.
But yeah, I was fine, kind of putting them at 10. I wasn't
Yeah. So
or 9. Sorry,
yeah, Hopkins are. Then we get to, I guess, the one thing we had a question about was Syracuse, Maryland. Really, it comes down to Adam ranking Maryland 10. That was basically it.
Rivalries are back after a win, an ugly win, but a win.
Yeah, and that was kind of his justification, was they look bad. And I'm like, listen, man, they still. That's fair. I mean, like, look, they did not look good. I mean, they still beat like 3 top. They beat Cuse. They beat Princeton. They beat Richmond. You know, so Maryland is ahead of Syracuse on every other ballot. That's just it's the separation of 5 spots, and in an average, we average it out. That's the difference right there. So that's why Syracuse is ahead of Maryland, despite